On Sunday is going to get their name called. They're 31-1 to make the NCAA. So they are 31-1, and they are now on the bubble because they lost to my alma mater. UMass took care of business yesterday and knocked them out, ruined their season potentially. The Red Hawks have the 346th ranked non-league schedule. Now, that's not by choice, according to associate head coach Jonathan Holmes, who said that he was told no, because he's the head of scheduling. He was told no by 75 to 90 teams that he wanted to play. The A10s, the Mountain West. He said, quote, "I guess you could say we were in scheduling no man's land. We didn't fit the profile of what anyone was looking for." We've heard that story and refrain so much in college basketball. We tried to play a harder non-conference, but nobody would play us. Well, okay. Whose fault is that? I don't know whose fault that is, except we have to go on the facts. We can't say, well, you tried to play a harder schedule and nobody would play you, so we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. No, your resume is what your resume is. Okay. Period. It is what it is. You're 31-1. But we're starting to find out some more information just about a metric that I've never heard before. Okay. This is called the WAB, the wins above bubble. And I'm serious. This is new. This is not fake. This is new. A resume metric that measures a team's total number of victories compared to how many wins the average bubble team would be expected to rack up against the same schedule. Never heard of it before yesterday. Okay. What the hell is WAB? WAB evaluates Miami differently than other metrics. The Red Hawks fell to 37th with that loss yesterday. They are ahead of Iowa, St. Louis, Texas A&M, NC State, and others when it comes to this metric. And before you say, well, Matt, no one's going to use the WAB, hold on a second. The committee head talked about it at the end of February, that wins above bubble is important, especially when it comes to selecting teams in the field. It is a new metric that nobody really has talked about that we all probably have to consider now about Miami of Ohio and whether or not they're going to get into the NCAA tournament. WAB. What is it? Well, here's how the RPI was calculated back in the day. The RPI, the Ratings Power Index, that was the first time we really had that conversation. That was ranked by a team's winning percentage, and average opponent's winning percentage, and the average opponent's winning percentage. The net came to be back in 2020, where we now have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. The number of quad 1 wins versus number of quadrant 3, 4 losses will be incredibly important when it comes to selecting the NCAA tournament at large bid and for seedings. When it comes to Miami of Ohio, they have 0 quad 1 games. None. Not played a single team that factors into a quad 1 situation. This is where analytics goes a little bit haywire for me. And I like analytics. I like numbers. I use numbers for betting every single day. I use KenPom every single day. I use as much data as I can for NBA betting and college basketball betting. But at the end of the day, we sort of have to just use our eyes. Do we not? 31-1 is 31-1. I am putting Miami of Ohio into the NCAA tournament. If I have my way, and I don't, but if I did, I'm putting it in. And I'm not going to use the WAB as justification. Just like the RPI and just like using these metrics to determine who is good and who is not. And you can make the argument that you should be seeding Miami of Ohio in the 12-13 range, and I'm okay with that. But I am putting them in. Even though they lost to UMass, I'm putting them in as one of the 32 or so best teams in college basketball to get an at-large bid. And there's numerous teams who are on that at-large bid side of things that will get automatic qualifying bids by winning their conference tournament. But I'm putting Miami of Ohio in. I don't know if they get their name called. I don't know if we can justify, if you're the committee and you're standing up there and you're going to say that this team gets in over an Oklahoma, over a New Mexico, over a Texas, that Miami of Ohio belongs in because of a metric that no one's heard of before and nobody knows much about. I think we have a problem. I think we have a problem. And I don't know if the committee is going to be able to handle the pressure that's going to come down on them and the ripping that will come down on them come Monday if they leave out a team like Auburn, a team like Texas, a team like Oklahoma, and they put Miami of Ohio in over them. They can probably get away with it if they put them in over in New Mexico or they put them in over another mid-major. But if you put them in over a power conference team, I think we're going to be in for a little bit of an issue. Here is your last four in, last four out. Miami of Ohio, by most bracketologists, they are one of the last four teams in. Texas is in, VCU is in, and SMU occupies that very precarious last four team in. First four teams out: Oklahoma, New Mexico, Auburn, Indiana. I would cross out Indiana, but the other three I think are problematic. The other three are difficult and dangerous, and two of them are playing. Arkansas, Oklahoma, huge game today. New Mexico, San Diego State, also huge game today. If Oklahoma and New Mexico win, I think you're going to have a hard time keeping them out. And that's where I think Texas and Miami of Ohio and VCU and SMU start to feel the pressure on Selection Sunday. You want to see losses. Arkansas and San Diego State. If you're somebody on that bubble, you want to see Arkansas and San Diego State today win and not give another big resume boost to Oklahoma and New Mexico. I love Oklahoma today. I couldn't be more cold. So if you're somebody, I love Oklahoma today, and I'm ice cold. I love Oklahoma to cover. I love Oklahoma to win. They're the hottest team in the SEC right now, and Arkansas is playing their first game of the tournament. I love OU, but I'm probably going to be dead wrong on that. The other game, I don't really know much. New Mexico, I have no real opinion on New Mexico and San Diego State, but I love Oklahoma coming up today. I might be dead wrong, but let's find out where our guy is. Adam Bjorn on BvB. He is the one and only Adam Bjorn, joining us from a hotel room somewhere. How are you, sir? How are you?
I'm good, and I'm right down the road here in Las Vegas with you, Matt.
Are you really?
I am.
You're in town.
I am, because I'm in the the National Handicapping Championships this weekend at the Horseshoe.
Look at that. Okay, there we go. I finally figured it out. I was like, what's going on? Okay, so you're down the street. Can you hear me okay? Is that all right?
Yep, I can.
Okay, because I have an issue with my microphone, so I'm glad. All right, so I got a bunch of questions for you going on, but I saw you shaking your head about Oklahoma. No, Oklahoma's a bad play today? You like Arkansas?
No, I'm actually saying the house is going to need Oklahoma big. We're looking at like 80+% money in Arkansas, 90+% master money on Arkansas. So I hope your cold streak turns and this wins outright, because even the money line, there's action on Arkansas. So yeah, hopefully you get this one.
Anything else in the SEC tournament today? There's four big games that really, Florida and Kentucky. Anything else that jumps off the screen?
Florida and Kentucky, maybe it's an early one.
Kentucky, Florida is
Florida, it's 70+% of the money's on Florida, 80% plus of the master money's there. Which other game is?
Oh, the Oklahoma game is a big one. Alabama, the Tide game.
Yeah, Alabama, the money's all over them again. The other big games of the day, Tennessee, Vanderbilt's getting a ton of action, heavy Tennessee side. Miami, Florida over Virginia is getting a lot of big action. Utah Valley over UT Arlington as well, getting a lot of action down there as well.
Really? That's an interesting. Okay, there's a game I wouldn't expect to have a lot of action.
And then the other one, the Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
Ohio State getting heavily bet there, over 70% of the money. However, 82% of the money, master money's on Michigan. So maybe that ends up being a bit of a day to play, which we're running hot on lately. I mean, there was a UFC last week. Was that last week that we got that one?
Yes, sir. Saturday night, you had that. Yep, with Oliveira coming in on that. That was everybody. I got caught in that one. I got caught up in the wash with Max Holloway on that one. Everybody else was on Oliveira. Data play was on Oliveira. In terms of handle, like what do you guys see action wise? Clearly, the NCAA tournament is going to dwarf it, but how is the action in this weekend for the conference tournaments?
No, the conference tournaments actually get a lot of action. I think that it draws in the local pockets of customers and whatnot into that. It's almost like a prelude to, there's so many games going on that it just sort of spreads out, and then it kind of condenses down a little bit for the March Madness as well. So there's less games, more games going on now. So across the board, you get as much volume as you do then, and some really big games. I mean, another game I'm looking at, St. Louis, George Washington, is really big volume. Arizona, Iowa State's another one. Like these are proper sweating games for the house this week. And I think just the season's so long, a lot of people sort of taper out. The football, they've got all this other stuff on, and they really wait for these tournaments to kind of dive into their local sort of areas, look at what teams they like. And then I think some of them sort of maybe, still going hard, but they're more looking at their brackets almost on a recreational side from the big tournament versus sort of playing action on these things.
What is the action on St. Louis, George Washington? I laid 5.5 with SLU today. That game tipping off here in about 5 minutes.
Okay, so then looking at this, looks like all the money's generally on St. Louis, looking at 82% of it there, 84% of the master money there as well. But you saying you laid 5.5, and it looks like it's a solid 7 now. So definitely some CLV there for you.
Okay, we'll see. I mean, it's done nothing for me lately, so it's being on the movement side has not been beneficial to me, unfortunately. Maybe today will be a tiding that will turn. Do you see professionals attacking the mid-major and the smaller conference tournaments than recreationals? Clearly, but what is the master money when it comes to the big tournaments like the ACC or the SEC tournament?
Yeah, I mean, that's their advantage. The lines are more inefficient on those games. The thing is, once you get to this point, all these teams have played, a significant amount of games. So it's sort of looking at the lineups, the injuries, those kind of things as well. But that, they're the weaker numbers on those lesser conferences, lesser tournaments. But you also get a lot of conference play during the season and that. So you get an idea of roughly where they should be against each other and things like that. Who has to, put in a bigger effort to get to next week and some of those things as well. So it's generally across the space of it. Maybe they slow down a little bit because the shop's eyes are looking at it now. The numbers are a bit more efficient than they are in December and January. But they still come. I mean, I'm looking at the master charts and it's still as strong as a bulk of them. I mean, a game like Northbridge, Cal Irvine, it's probably 80% of the volume on the game is master money.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not too shocking just because it's
right.
Can you name 2 players on that roster? 99.999% of people cannot name 2 players who will play in that game. So makes sense.
Yeah.
On that. What do you see if you were giving someone advice for the NCAA tournament? You're coming in because you're a pro. You come in this weekend, not next weekend. Next weekend's like amateur hour, and you get all the boy bands and all the crazy stuff that comes in, and all the people that come to the tournament come to bet the tournament here in Vegas on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But do you have any advice for someone who's coming to Vegas next week to bet the NCAA tournament? Are there any tricks of the trade that you've uncovered over the years?
Well, you just kind of answered one of them there. You get a lot of public money. So there's a lot of opportunities where numbers kind of get inflated a little bit because the books just get heavily loaded. So you get an opportunity to get on the other side. And you probably see that as much as anywhere on the streets here with people, if they're coming here betting the recreational sides, doing their, 8-10 team parlays. So there's sort of spots on those other sides to find in. But for me, it's always been watch round one. Those round two games has probably been my most successful games in the course of 20 plus years. Once I kind of gauged it, started watching it and learning it, was because for the bookmakers to price up that round two game as quick as they come off the court for both teams winning round one, they're just using the data. There's not a lot of eyeballs watching these things. And generally there's a lot of things where there's just opportunities that teams just didn't shoot well, or they didn't shoot well for a reason, or two very different defensive, offensive teams come together. And it was a team that was, 15-point favorites. They come up a team that just actually can play defense. They played as good as, they can. They won by 4 or 5, and everyone's thinking, well, what's going on? They sort of dropped off a lot. And it was just the matchup or whatnot. So, that one. And then the other big thing coming up lately is lineups. So especially if you're betting live, a lot of data, a lot of people are starting to work on tools of momentum and lineups. So when, NBA, they're using it more so, but I'm sure it works very strongly in the college sports because the top lineup versus your next level players is significantly different. But, when the lineups mismatch and a team goes on a run, don't panic over it because there's a mismatch, and that will sort of swing the other way in another stage of the game. So especially with prediction markets, I'm hearing there's a lot of in and out trading, over the course of 2 or 3 minutes when the lineups are off, and then there's a sort of momentum swing either in line with the lineups or against the lineups and playing those spots as well.
So would you recommend holding off on round one? Would you go lighter on round one, Thursday, Friday, and go heavier on the weekend?
I generally do. I mean, you pick your spots, you have your 5 and 12s and all the things that you sort of jump into. And I'm usually looking for upsets and big underdogs that I want to take a shot at round one. Sort of teams, again, that their styles, they haven't come across each other before, and there's sort of spots like that. Or I think one of the big spots is often you have a 7th or 8th team in one conference that's really struggled all year against obviously a lot better teams, and they're coming up against a mid-major sort of winner that's seen as a lot stronger. And there's some of those matchups where, identifying the team that ended up 8th in a top conference versus 1st in another conference in those spots, which also comes to another thing is you see after day one sort of which conferences are truly standing out. You'll have some conferences that just keep winning and winning. And if you watch that early, right, you can start to see during, towards the evening and then into the second day, lines moving in that direction. And if you're watching those early games, you can get an opportunity to sort of jump in, really trying to beat the price move, and then making a decision later on whether you get out, have a middle, or just continue the ride.
Do you feel like point spreads come into play in the tournament, or is it better off taking money line?
I gamble more on the on the money line and then the dogs. It's like playoffs. There is no future after this, so you kind of get it where some of the big teams will run up and then they'll take the gas off. They know that they've got another game in 2 days, so there's sort of some of that balance as well. But yeah, it's some of those big numbers you can sort of backdoor cover, or you get the other team gives up. But the lower teams will play all their effort, all the game, versus a top team that may sort of back off, and if you're betting the favorite, you lose that backdoor cover versus being on the other side.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I have been betting it recently, because I don't like sweating the fouls and the free throws at the end of these games. If I've laid 9 or laid 10 and we're watching these hackathons going on, and it's like, my gosh, I'm right there on the number where, okay, if I just sucked it up and bet the juice, and you only pay the juice when you lose, and it can catch you. I'll give it to you. I mean, Team USA baseball lost to Italy. That was a minus 1100 favorite, and they lost. So you can lose. But if you go 2 and 8, yet you hit the 2 or big plus 6 to 1, 7 to 1 dogs, you're making money going. I mean, your record might stink, but you're making money if you take those big dogs to win outright, right?
Yeah, and I've said this that my lifetime strike rate is probably 25 to 30%.
Wow.
I'm not needing to chase 53, 55 because I'm betting futures, I'm betting horses, I'm betting dogs, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a Hall of Fame baseball batter at 300 sort of thing. So, you know, a lot of people get wrapped up in trying to hit the, certain percentages or things like that. But depending on your style, depending on what you look at, you've really just got to match your own record versus the type of plays that you're swinging into.
Does that ever play? I mean, mentally, do you care? Your record means nothing. It's the bankroll. That's what matters, not the record. Is that all? Is that how you justify it? Because I think some people would go, "My gosh, I've missed 9 in a row, but that 10th one that gets there, I end up becoming profitable. I just got to get to that 10th one."
Yeah, 100%. Records don't matter to me. It's, finding winners, finding odds. And I've known for a very long time, and it was, you know, in the beginning, yeah, it's tough. If you're betting just spreads and you're laying -05, -10 every time, then yeah, you've got to win more than you lose. But if you're, and again, going back to sort of the baseball hitters, you're going to strike, miss 7 out of 10 slots. And it's, since I've kind of learned that analogy, it's probably actually helped me, 20 odd years ago when that sort of came onto my radar. But that's just sort of the name of the game. It's even the guys that are betting golf, they're betting 10 guys, averaging anywhere from 20s to 200s. So when they bring that down, it's probably a 3-to-1 shot, even maybe, it's things like that. So it's sort of balancing out what your goal is, what you're trying to do. And ultimately it's the ROI investment is what the end of the day goal is.
Yeah, I think the content space has sort of ruined a lot of players for that reason, because obviously I'm in it, and obviously my people look at my record, and it's okay. What's your record versus what did you do? Like I had the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, so I had a 16-to-1 ticket on Seattle to win it all. So obviously, like I was hedging off of that. Like my overall record in the postseason wasn't good, but the ROI at the end of the day was very good for the NFL last year. So I think that is part of the issue. I don't know if you've read the article in the Atlantic that came out yesterday or not yet, but essentially a writer who is a Mormon who's never bet before in his life was given $10,000 to go bet with, and he lost almost all of it. And he was betting $100 a game out of the gate, right? Never bet before in his life. He starts firing $100. And then by the end of it, he was betting $500 and he was chasing and he was losing. And it's, you look at the people who are going to come in next week to Vegas, and like I was talking about it earlier, but like you have to pace yourself, right? If you haven't done this before, you can't be chasing. If you were betting 100, you can't go and bet 500 if you're losing, right? You get yourself in trouble that way.
100%. I mean, chasing, you're guaranteed to lose in that style. It was actually, I was at a conference in New York this week, and we were sort of joking around again from a bunch of Irish guys and on the horses and that, because we've lived this so long and we understand it, and sort of the joke within is, well, you can't win if you don't bet. And there's sort of this famous Twitter thing out there. One guy at races, I don't know where he was, but it was, and he was just going, you know what, good things happen to bad people, whatnot. And then he says, you just got to keep on betting. Keep on betting. You'll get a winner eventually, whatnot. But on the bankroll management side, it's, you're better off working down. If you're going to start at 500, work down to the hundreds until you get back on that roll. But going from hundreds to 500s to that sort of chasing, it's kind of the old roulette or blackjack, or, when you sort of double up your bet, saying this will never, it'll hit eventually, and then it just goes, and then you're beyond the amounts that you can catch and things like that. I've seen that many a time. So it's find your number, know what your bankroll is, know what you're happy to lose. And when you get there, just calling it a day rather than sort of chasing it down. But yeah, it's tough. It's all mental. I mean, it's all mental of how to play this out.
Is. Yeah, it really is. I can't remember the strategy, the name of the strategy, but I've seen it more often in the last 2 weeks than I have in a long time about that. Take your blackjack or your roulette. You bet 10. If you lose, you bet 20. You lose, you bet 40. You lose, bet 80. If you lose, bet 160, then you bet 320. You just start to keep on compounding it, and eventually you're going to get there. And it's like you start doing the math in the whole thing, and you're like, you're hoping that you're one day gonna hit, and if you don't, you're down. Your whole bankroll is gone. So be careful with these crazy strategies that people are pitching to you guys.
Correct. And the one thing I do mess around with on roulette is, so I'll ask the kids, give me a couple of numbers, and then I'll play the numbers either side of that. And if you hit one, you double up the chips. If you hit two, you put another chip on. And when you lose, you go back. And it's just single bets. The only time you're up is when you win, kind of thing. It's the only way to play it. Otherwise, you just get into trouble chasing that way.
Yeah, and people who want to bet like that, I say go bet craps. Like if you're interested in that type of like massive swing, like that, there's bets you can cash on with craps. You just keep on adding up your level and let the number sit there and ride, and you can have by the time a hot roller is out there, you can have 4 or 5x what you're used to having out there on the board before they crap out. So I mean, I don't know. I think we are not educating gamblers in a very good way at the moment, because there's so many new players that come into the marketplace and they see all this internet content and they go and try it and they get their teeth kicked in, and then they get mad at us and they're like, you guys told us to do this. And we're like, no, we didn't. We told you not to do this. And you're doing what you're not supposed to be doing. So stop this behavior. I know it's a lot of basketball, but I am curious about the World Baseball Classic and what you've seen, if anything, of an uptick in interest in the WBC. The Americans made it, obviously, so that increases the idea of an American-Japanese final, which is what everyone kind of wants. But where are you guys at right now for the WBC?
It has picked up a little bit in the early games. It's still not a lot. I mean, it's probably more around exhibition baseball game during the day. Looking at the two games, got United States, Canada. There's decent money on that, but there's not a lot on the DR in Korea. So a bit more, seeing a bit more action on the totals and that, which are closer to pick'em kind of prices rather than the big money lines that are showing up in a lot of these games. And then obviously the run lines as well are getting a bit more closer action.
Okay. The golf this week is considered the 5th major with the Players Championship. Is it bet like that? I mean, are you guys seeing a high level of action for the players?
Yeah, I just was looking at the charts this morning, and a high level. I mean, for us, this is probably closer to sort of the British Open kind of numbers as well. So I looked at the charts, and it's really good hold. We have a couple, Bridgman, which is a 7-figure loser. Aberg's a pretty decent loser as well. So, yeah, there's plenty of action on this. And as you say, it's sort of the 5th major, and for Americans, it's really the 4th.
Oh, over the British, right? Yeah, over that. I think for a lot of people in the colder climates, in the Michigans, New Yorks, Bostons of the world, this is like the unofficial kickoff to spring. Like you start watching golf again and you start seeing the warmer temperatures and you start getting very envious and very angry. I mean, it was 85 here in Vegas yesterday. I'm getting on a plane and flying to Boston where it will be 38 degrees when I land. So there's a lot of people who are not happy with the current state of the weather that they're in. So I think the idea of having the golf clubs come out of hibernation makes them all really, really excited. All right, before we let you go, you got to tell me why you're in town. What is the contest that you are in here in Vegas?
Yeah, so this is something that I've heard about, seen about for a couple of decades. They have a national handicapping championships annually to pick horse racing, the best horse racing handicapper. I guess over the course of the year, there's different tournaments, and you can sort of qualify, and then you get an invite to this event. So I'd sort of played a contest a bit more, and from my Breeders' Cup, where I finished 12th, got me an entry into this weekend. But I went into the room yesterday, so there's 800 plus horse betting degenerates just like me, so I'm in the perfect spot. The pool is just over 5 million in prize pool and payouts and whatnot, 800,000 plus to the winner, and then the guy that won like the handicapping tour, because there's a tour just like the golf tour and whatnot. If he wins this, then he has like a $5 million bonus or something like that. So, it's today you pick, you get pick any 10 horses that you want in amongst like 5 or 6 tracks. And then there's 6 mandatory races that everybody has to play. And then tomorrow, I think it's 12 any, 8 mandatory. And then from that, they take the top 10% of the 800 into Sunday morning, which is like the semifinals. and then they take the top 10 after that onto a final table Sunday afternoon. So got into town last night, went and got the forms, watching some races, pinging people if, do you have any winners this weekend? And then, in probably about half an hour, I'll head to the room, and I've got my seat already, and I'll start trying to find some horse winners.
Is there a way for us to track and follow this online? Do they put the results up anywhere?
So I believe there is live streaming and live results and things like that. So I'm going to get those together and put them on my Twitter later, which an update on my Twitter. I was upgraded this week. I am now at Adam Bjorn. They got rid of the 2, so you can update me there.
Oh, nice.
The other one still works from what I understand, but yes, I got a message a couple of weeks ago or something about if there was one I'd like to change to, and I had seen that Bjorn was without the 2 was dormant for a very, very long time. So I put it in and got word last night that it's been changed. So
all right, Adam Bjorn with no number 2 is now the official handle for you. All right, we'll be watching. Best of luck to you. Thank you for doing the show early. I'm glad you're in town. We'll be following along, and I'm excited next week to hear how you do.
I didn't want to say to you, this is perfect, I'll be in town, because I know, you don't know where I am and whatnot. But when we said, I said, can we do this Friday? And yes, but can I do it early? I'm like, perfect. So
the universe working great ways. Best of luck, my friend. Thank you for the time. We'll catch up next week. All right.
Thanks. Later.
Adam Bjorn joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book every Thursday, now on a Friday, joining us here on BvB. Best of luck to him in the contest, in the handicapping contest. My gosh, betting horses. Oh boy, that is some tough. That is way above my pedigree and pay grade to be able to go ahead and do that. Let's talk about what happened last night in the NBA. So you guys didn't tell me if the audio was messed up. So I think the audio is okay, which is because it's weird because I can hear myself in my own headset, but anything that comes out of the computer is coming out of the computer and not coming out of my microphone, which is into my headset, which is supposed to. So hopefully it all works out well for the replay. And you guys said it's all good. So I think we're rolling here with that. What happened last night? You can sign me up for 7 games of the Boston Celtics and the OKC Thunder anytime you want. Let's go and do this, because SGA passed his Wilt Chamberlain for the longest 20-point streak in NBA history, which is a ridiculous number. But after the game, there was controversy. After the game, I mean, look at this play. This is Jordan Walsh just putting his arms out. On his way up, SGA loses the basketball, but the referees call a foul, and they put him on the free throw line. The Celtics were not happy. Boston had a chance to win the game with 0.8 to play. They had a 3-point shot by Peyton Pritchard, fall short. And there was a foul call. That was a foul. Chet Holmgren got hacked. Tie game. Boston winds up losing the game by 2. But afterwards, Jaylen Brown and company, not happy. Quote, "We commend players for playing the game the right way, but we give the benefit to those who are trying to manipulate the game. I just don't think it's basketball. All the foul baiting, it's whatever for me." That's Jaylen Brown commenting on SGA, the reigning MVP and the defending champ. He's not alone. There are a lot of folks who are really angry about the fouls and what has happened here for the Thunder. And now that they've won a ring, and now they're getting all the shine, and now they're getting all the attention, that people are starting to call it out publicly. Celtics Thunder with a healthy Jason Tatum, sign me up. That will be an unbelievable NBA Finals in June if we get it. That is what we really should be given that. Just because now we're starting to see a bit of a rivalry. The team that won the championship in 24 against the team that won the championship in 25. And we got kind of stolen for it last year because of the injury to Jason Tatum. And now we could potentially have it again, or have a shot at it in this NBA Finals this coming June. Please give that to me as well. I don't know if the LeBron situation factors in, but I do think there are some players who now feel comfortable talking about players who are flopping and players who get to the foul line consistently because they're not actually fouled, but they make it look like they've been fouled. They're very good at in real time. It looks like they got murdered, but in reality, they did not get touched. And that's on the referees, and that's on refereeing and officiating in general in pro sports is extremely difficult. And you give the benefit of the doubt to the reigning MVP, to the champs. That's just the NBA has done that forever. Michael got calls, Kobe got calls. It's very not unusual for this to happen. However, when you have a Jaylen Brown and you have a player who was and could be, in the room, if you will, for an MVP this year, now calling out a guy who he's competing with, another MVP, saying, "Hey, I don't like it. This is not basketball. This is not the way the game is supposed to be played. You are manipulating these referees. You are manipulating the game." Some might call it brilliant. Some might say that's what you're supposed to do. Star players getting star calls and manipulating the officials to benefit his team. That's brilliant. That's sports, right? But the opponent gets frustrated by this. And it's not just another team. This is not the Orlando Magic calling out. This is the Boston Celtics calling it out. And when you have an 18-time champion calling it out, that's a different situation. So I really wonder what's going to happen here in the postseason if Boston does wind up playing SGA and the Thunder. Do we see an argument? Do we see the games be called differently than what we have in the past because Boston is calling this out and saying, hold on a second. We play physical basketball in Boston. We aren't playing around with this. The other game last night almost put me in the ground because I don't know how the Spurs lost that game last night. They were outscored by Denver 42-25 in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was a win. Like that, I took OKC and Denver, 2-leg money line parlay. I was like, okay, let's not play around with the numbers. The Spurs are favored by 5.5. They closed at like 7-point favorites. OKC closed at like 7.5-point favorites. Like I thought both sides, they're not going to cover most likely, but let's just get a W. Going into the fourth quarter, I felt very good about the Spurs win. I was very nervous about the Thunder. I thought Boston was going to beat OKC last night, and now I was going to lose because of the Thunder. Nope. Thunder won. Spurs lose 20, 40, 25 points in the fourth quarter for San Antonio. I like the Spurs a lot, but they do things like that makes me worried. That makes me worried. In the postseason, if they see Denver, if they see Jokic, if they see SGA before the Western Conference Finals, yikes. Very, 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 very scary. Very scary on that coming up here on that. Let's jump down the rabbit hole. Our friends at Rabbit, they bring you the rabbit hole. You guys can jump in here with them and get 5 free Rabbit cash by using the code Rabbit5 at sign up. What is Rabbit? Is a peer-to-peer sports betting platform that you create the market. Challenge your friends. Take your smack talk from the group chat into actual bets, into actual action. You challenge your friends. You set the house. You set the price, not the house. You create and share customized sports picks at Rabbit. Download the Rabbit app on Google Play or the Apple Store and make sure you use the code Rabbit5 when you sign up for Rabbit with Rabbit Cash to give you a free trial using Rabbit, the peer-to-peer sports betting picks. I need to know who thought it was a good idea for the Big 12 in their biggest tournament of the year, in their biggest moment, with Arizona and Iowa State and Houston, all legitimate national championship contending teams. Who thought it was a good idea to experiment with a court that nobody had ever used before? A glass LED basketball court for the biggest tournament of the year goes down as one of the stupidest decisions I can remember anybody in major college basketball making, because nobody asked for it. Nobody wanted it. They just decided to do it. And now they have to swap it out for the semifinals and the finals because players were slipping, players were complaining, and the entire thing looks stupid. I mean, one, the color of it is weird, and we've had weird colored courts for a while. That's not what's unique. But okay, so you can put things on the court, you can put different logos up, and you can put when it's a timeout, or you can put the scores, or you can put different fun things. This is great for a Saturday afternoon game in the non-conference when you're playing, I don't know, it's Kansas against, Northern Kentucky. Not when it's Arizona, Iowa State. Not when we're talking about a massive